Fans of the Golden Girls loved the friendships and chemistry shared between the 4 retired women from Miami. The show brought us all the heartwarming moments and laughs we could ask for. But what we see on our screens doesn't always reflect what was really going on set. In this video, we're revealing how even though friendship was at the core of what made the Golden Girls so special, in real life not everyone in the show's cast could stand being around each other. Betty White and another Golden Girl were once very close. Betty White and Bea Arthur held nothing back when they stepped into their respective roles on the Golden Girls, and evidently their friendship seems to have blossomed in a similarly prosperous way. Arthur's son, Matthew Sachs, was once quoted as saying his mom and White lived close to each other, and that initially they'd sometimes even carpool to set. Rue McClanahan told reporters that Arthur would even flat out refuse to go out for lunch with her if White wasn't invited as well. While these insights show that Arthur and White were close pals at the beginning of the Golden Girls, unfortunately things didn't always stay as amicable between them. As surprising as it seems to hear, Betty White and Bea Arthur had a very strained relationship at later points in their workplace relationship. It's been speculated there was a great deal of animosity and jealousy shared between the two over who got the funnier lines and longer duration of screen time. It might be worth noting that White was the first actress on the series to receive an Emmy nod. While all 4 leading ladies went on to be nominated for Emmys of their own, the tension on set remained at times so much that you could cut it with a knife. Arthur once called White the C-word. As a former Marine, Bea Arthur was well versed in profanity. Given her wholesome persona on screen, the fact that she had quite the sailor's mouth might be a bit shocking. During a tribute to Bea Arthur, who died of cancer in 2009, many of her friends and fellow celebrities came out to share stories about her. One of these friends was Golden Girl co-star Rue McClanahan, and the story she shared left the audience in a state of shock. In 2002, McClanahan and her husband visited Arthur to see her one-woman Broadway show. After the performance, McClanahan and her husband cordially thanked Arthur for inviting them out. That's when things took an unexpected turn. Arthur apparently looked at McClanahan's husband, took one of her trademark long pauses, and then said, "I love Rue. Betty White is a C-word." This wasn't the first time that fans of the Golden Girls heard about the tension between the show's co-stars, but it was the first time any of the series' leading cast members ever spoke about one another in such a way. Betty White kept silent on her feelings about Bea Arthur. Betty White did her best to keep her mouth shut about her relationship with Bea Arthur in the years since the Golden Girls ended. She finally broke her silence, however, in 2011 while doing a book tour to promote her memoir, If You Ask Me. During the tour, White told reporters that Bea had always been somewhat reserved and she wasn't fond of her. She went on to say Arthur viewed her as a pain in the neck at times. White theorized it was her positive attitude that rubbed Arthur the wrong way. Whenever she was happy, it apparently made Bea furious. White's comments didn't really give us too much to work with when trying to figure out why she and Arthur ended up not very close. But they do show us at least that the two ladies had very different and opposing personalities that obviously didn't always mesh well together. Ever wish you could earn points on every purchase instead of signing up for so many reward programs? Well, with Fetch, you can. Fetch is a super easy to use free app where you earn free rewards on literally anything you buy. Scan any physical receipt or e-receipt and you will earn points for every purchase. The purchase doesn't need to be on specific brands or items. Scan any purchase. Even if you have receipts that are up to 2 weeks old, you can scan them and start earning points. After you scan, you can redeem those points for hundreds of rewards, including Amazon, Visa, Starbucks, GameStop, and Walmart gift cards. Fetch is 100% free and so easy to use. Check out the link in the description, download the app now, and use the code FAXVERSE to get 5,000 points when you scan your first receipt. This is a limited time offer for FAXVERSE viewers, so be sure to check it out now. Bea and Rue were close. Bea Arthur and Rue McClanahan first met while on the set of the series All in the Family and its spin-off series Maude. At that tribute to Bea Arthur, McClanahan spoke fondly about her co-star's softer side as she mentioned the comfort and support she gave her when her mom died during filming of the first season of Maude. McClanahan mentioned that Arthur called her up immediately and invited her to come spend the night at her place. She even made up the guest room and laid next to her for hours to console her. McClanahan said that for the first time in days, a feeling of serenity swept over her and her grief dissipated. McClanahan addressed rumors of cast infighting in 1988. In 1988, McClanahan's career was taking off. She had just won an Emmy for her portrayal as Golden Girl Blanche, and she felt like the chemistry shared between her and her castmates was genuine. When she was invited to make an appearance on Larry King's CNN talk show, King opened up questions to the audience. One fan called and asked something she didn't expect. They were wondering whether or not everyone got along on the show. Rue got straight to the point. She told the caller her relationship with her co-stars was super and that it couldn't be any better. She finished up her answer by saying emphatically, "And that's the truth." Larry King went on to push Rue about her Golden Girl friendships. After King asked her if working together on set in Hollywood ever took a toll on their friendship, Rue stated that if they weren't getting along, it would begin to undermine the show's success. That would seep in through the cracks and tarnish the wonderful experience they were having together. McClanahan went on to affirm that she and her co-stars were in fact always having as much fun as they appeared to be. Since this interview was conducted in '88, when the show was just about halfway through its run, it makes sense that McClanahan wouldn't be willing to open up fully about what was really going on behind the scenes. It would be several years before stories began to leak out about how the women didn't get along. In 2009, just a few months before she died, McClanahan shared an observation she made that shed a bit of light on why Arthur and White didn't get along. From her perspective, the two actresses simply saw life differently. Bea came from a New York theater point of view, while White came from a TV point of view. Rue confirmed that Arthur was indeed upset when White won an Emmy before she did in 1986. White, who was the last surviving cast member before passing away in December 2021, told a reporter in 2011 that Bea thought she talked too much. Matthew Sachs, Arthur's son, confirmed this in his dealings with the press. Betty would go out and chat with the audience before filming. She loved smiling and making friends with her fans, but Arthur couldn't stand that she would do that. She believed in conserving one's energy and that it wasn't appropriate to talk to fans between takes. So when Betty would do it, and it didn't seem to affect her in the least bit, this rubbed Bea the wrong way. The Golden Girls ended when Bea Arthur walked away. It's well known that the Golden Girls ended after Bea Arthur decided to exit the show, but not everyone knows why she made this choice. Arthur had several valid reasons for wanting to leave. For one thing, she believed the writers had done just about everything they could with the four primary characters. She felt, especially in the later years, that the quality of the show was beginning to diminish. The series was always known for featuring rock-solid narratives, and at that point she was no longer impressed by how the episodes were turning out. She wanted to leave the show on her own terms and end it while it was still resonating with fans. She also later revealed that she was beginning to be offended by how much the show was poking fun of her character. White, Getty, and McClanahan didn't seem to be concerned about the below-the-belt wisecracks at their expense, but Arthur struggled with it. Perhaps that's why she didn't participate in the Golden Girls reunion featured on the 90s sitcom Ladies' Man. Matthew Sachs has confirmed his mother began to feel like the series had run its course and was losing steam. But he also believes that aging played a significant role in why she left the Golden Girls. At the time, Arthur was around 70, so it's understandable why she wanted to retire her Dorothy character and take it easy. Arthur ended up living for another 17 years after the Golden Girls wrapped, before dying of lung cancer at age 86 in 2009. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know that Betty White and Bea Arthur struggled to get along sometime? Let us know in the comments section below.